Hi, it's Scott. ROCKFILE back with another podcast review for you. Let's do a spoiler-free review about the new Superman. No spoilers. Won't talk about anything that you haven't seen in the trailers. Why don't they call this James Gunn's Superman? There's so many movies, Rob Zombie's Halloween. Why don't we have... Because this feels like a James Gunn Superman, but short version, if you don't want to listen to the whole review, it was great. Go to the movies and see it. It's what you want out of a summer blockbuster. If you're a die-hard Superman fan and Christopher Reeve or even George Reeves back in the day or any of the other Superman or your Superman, and you're not open-minded to something different, then you may not get as much mileage. But I think 98% of most people will walk out of the theater and go, wow, that was really good. I went to a 4:15 show here in Kenai, Alaska. I go to a lot of those on Thursdays. When a movie opens, I try and see it first so I can review it. No spoilers, that kind of thing. I was not at all interested in another Superman movie. I think since I've been alive, we've gotten so many Superman and Batman stories. Can we play with the other characters for a while? My favorite superhero growing up was Doctor Strange. I'm not talking Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm talking the real Doctor Strange. Read the comics. Read them all. Really loved that. Loved a few others. I mean, I was an X-Men fan, Iron Man fan, but that's what I was into. Everybody else loved Superman. And when the Christopher Reeve Superman came out in the late 70s, everybody, it seemed like, was a Superman fan. Same thing happened when Tim Burton's Batman came out. It seemed like everybody was a Batman fan. I love both of those movies. I think they're quintessential and classic. Formed in my mind, that's what I think of when I think of Superman and Batman. But since then, which was a long time ago, I hate to admit, we've had many other Batmans, many other Supermans, many other superheroes. So how does this Superman play in modern times with all of that in some of our heads? Again, I had a blast with it. I sat down in the theater, to watch a couple trailers that I hadn't seen yet, because I try to avoid those these days, and then to watch a movie that I was going to pick apart in a review. I really was going to be that guy. Not because I'm dislike DC. I just don't care. I'm ambivalent about it at this point. I think Christopher Nolan made the last great DC movies. Since then, they've been hit or miss. I like what James Gunn did with Peacemaker and Suicide Squad. I did like some of the other movies in between. I thought the first Wonder Woman was really good. I thought the first Aquaman was not great, but visually stunning and a great 4K to show off the home theater. And I like the new Batman with Robert Pattinson. But I'm not a DC, diehard. I just have grown up with all the Supermans. I, as a little kid, watched the black and white TV show. So I'm very familiar with all the ins and outs of Superman. This is a Superman for the modern day. They've done a few tweaks here and there. I don't think anything major enough, but they didn't get my Doctor Strange exactly right. They didn't get my Iron Man exactly right. Can't say, I'm not a big enough fan to say they've ever gotten Superman exactly right. I just always thought of, as Christopher Reeve as being the guy. I didn't really like Superman Returns. Man of Steel I enjoyed because it was different and it was dark and he killed somebody in it. And I really do like Henry Cavill. I thought he was a great Superman. But I thought those movies just didn't come together. And I really don't go back and watch them. As much as I love all of these characters because they're characters I grew up with, they were fine, and I have them on the shelf, and if it comes time to revisit them, but I'm glad we're kind of getting a reboot of DC. So Superman opens with everything already ongoing. You have probably heard this, and that would be a detriment to a lot of other things, but again, how many Superman movies, TV shows, cartoons have we had in the last 50, 70 years? Almost, well, it's longer than that is. Anyway, I really like his portrayal of Superman. I think he does a great job. Lois Lane, I think she was also wonderful in the film. I could say these actors' names, it'll make more sense. Jimmy Olsen, he did great. I've loved him in every movie he's been in. I thought Lex Luthor, I thought he did a fantastic job. This is what I want a comic book movie to be. This is what I told my buddy Chris this morning, was that, to me, this is the best James Gunn movie since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and the best DC movie since the Christopher Nolan movies. I think it works. I don't think it's perfect. I think there's some things I would have done differently, but that's not how I watch movies. And so many reviewers go in, well, I expected this and I didn't get it, so I'm going to bash the movie. I had no expectations. I expected not to like the film. Crypto makes a great impression right at the start. It's the scene that you've seen in the trailers. There's just more to it, and it's great. I think the flying scenes are fantastic. They're some of the best Superman flying scenes I've ever seen. I read one review after I saw the movie, because I went in with no spoilers, that the movie feels like it was filmed with drones, because there's a lot of drones in the movie, and I don't disagree. There is quite a bit that felt like it could have only been done with drones or special effects. If I do have a complaint about the film, there's just too much in it for 2 hours and 5 minutes. But don't you want that? This is a comic book movie. It's not supposed to be Oppenheimer. It's not even supposed to be Barbie. It's supposed to be entertaining, a roller coaster ride with some melodrama and stuff like that. And I think they nailed it. He pulled from every incarnation of Superman there has ever been. There's a little scene here that calls back to this. There's a little way he does this, a line here. There is all sorts of stuff. If you're a DC nerd, you're going to have a blast with this movie, because it is chock full of stuff that... Well, I watched one of the things to explain the end. There was one little part that I had to go to the bathroom. And so anyway, I was watching that, and he was picking up things that, I wouldn't even have caught that was that in the background or whatever. So there is a lot of Easter eggs and stuff. I think everybody in the movie is great. I think it moves quickly. One of my favorite reviewers said the comedy takes away from it. I don't think so. I think there were laugh-out-loud moments. There were moments where I laughed and other people didn't. There were moments where we all laughed, and the final mark of the movie, as I started to say earlier, this was a 4:15 show on an afternoon where the weather wasn't that great, in a big tourist time here. A lot of people are fishing, but it was cloudy and a little rainy and windy, and so the theater was a lot more full than I expected. When the credits started, people applauded. It started with little golf claps and went into a full-blown applause of the film. I have not sat in a movie theater and heard that happen since Avengers Endgame. People applauded those last two Avengers movies that we got. And that happened this night. The crowd was 30 plus. There were no kids in the theater. And I think everybody got, I think why there was applause is because you're surprised when it's over that they didn't jump the shark. They didn't do anything totally stupid and take you out of the film. Again, there were a few things. There's thing that's been brought up several times that Lex Luthor is walking through the Fortress of Solitude and things are just blowing up around his head and he doesn't even flinch. I guess he's Superman doing that, but Lex Luthor, we find out later, is pretty human and can be beat up pretty easily. So why didn't he flinch? Was he just so set on getting to that console that was all he could think about, even though there's buzzsaws and pieces of robot parts flying by his head and on fire, flaming? And anyway, if you want to nitpick it that way, you can. But again, I take the whole experience in. I'm watching the cinematography. I'm like, how do they get this shot? I think it's great. As I said earlier, there's a little too much. I mean, yeah, we don't get to stay on anything very long. He's got a whole bunch of robots in the Fortress of Solitude. When did that happen? How did that happen? That wasn't in any previous movie. Did I miss that one of the cartoons? And there were a few other things like that. But overall, I think they hit all the high points in the story they needed to hit. And in the end, if you think about it, James Gunn wrote and directed the film. He's had this on his mind forever, and he is the head of this part of Warner Brothers Studio. So this is he could have done anything he wanted. And I'll be honest, as much as I love James Gunn, I think sometimes a little too much James Gunn is too much. I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, although a fantastic movie, he went a little too far with the whole animal endangerment thing. It definitely made for a more impactful ending, but still. I think Suicide Squad got a little too much. And I can't put my finger on it. It's just like Suicide Squad's out of 5-star. It's a 4-star movie. I really liked it. There was just a little too much gun in there and maybe not enough comic book. I think maybe in a certain way he held back, but I think he's also doing things in this movie he's always wanted to do and couldn't. I noticed some things like, while there is a lot of super action, they go out of their way to show he doesn't really kill people. That was pretty interesting. Some of the changes in the lore are interesting. There's some plot twists that are interesting. The end twist, please don't ruin any spoilers. Go see this movie without knowing anything. And I will say that Crypto steals the show many times. I love dogs. My two little dogs are my world, and I absolutely loved every scene with Crypto in this movie. And I was one in the trailers going, they really added the dog. Really? Based on the trailers, I thought I was going to hate this movie, and I walked out of the theater and I pre-ordered the 4K Steelbook. I am a fan. I want to see what they do next. I might even go see it in the movie theater again. It was that kind of movie experience. Of all the movies I've seen this year in the theater, which is, a few, Sinners and this, Superman, not that they're anything alike, because they're not. What they are singular visions of artists getting a team of people who all love the subject matter and want to make the best movie they can make. I think Superman's going to be divisive. I think there's going to be people who are going to jump up and down about certain things. But for me, as a fringe fan of Superman, I thought the movie was great. It gets my highest recommendation of the year, right up there with Sinners. It's just a well-made film. It entertained me. It thrilled me. I laughed. I don't know what else I can say about it. I don't want to get into particulars. Maybe we'll get into spoilers down the road. I don't even know how the movie's doing. Sorry, I hit a pad here. I don't know. I'm not doing any of the tracking or anything yet. I've been busy today, but I wanted to get this podcast up as the movie is opening. I hope everybody goes to see it, whether you're a fan or not, because it's a fun time at the movies. That number one. Number two, it's probably my favorite Superman movie. Yeah, I mean, I would pull this out and watch it again over the Christopher Reeve movie because this one's more exciting. And I like Superman 2, especially the Donner cut, but this is a really great Superman movie. It's not what I expected. And if you listen to my podcast, I love that. I love when a movie can surprise me. Went in expecting to hate it, walked out loving it, big fan. Go see Superman in theaters. It's an IMAX if you can. It's spectacular. That part of it, I didn't really talk about the filmmaking. The whole Superman shtick, the flying through the air, the hitting creatures, throwing people, it's all incredibly well done. Mr. Terrific, is that his name? I wasn't really familiar with that character. He steals the show in a couple places. Even Hawk Girl, I was ready to poop on her character. She turned out to be pretty great. Brief and really again, this movie starts with everything already in progress, like a comic book would. So in that aspect, I think James Gunn knocked it out of the park. I sat through the credits. The two end scenes they're not something like Marvel trying to throw Easter eggs out. They're just two really cool scenes. One's really cool, one's really funny, but stay to the end of the credits because the funny is the last one, and it is funny. So anyway, go see Superman. James Gunn knocked it out of the park. May not be the best movie he's ever made, but it's my favorite Superman movie, and please don't hate. I thought it was really great. Scott, I'm ROCKFILE. More podcasts, more drone videos, and so many more podcasts. I watched a movie I have to talk about called Agnes. You just wait to hear that podcast. Anyway, coming up on ROCKFILE's podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. That's very important. Have a great day.